Now, before we get to the cool stuff like press, handstand push-ups, watch the cap, we need to start off with some basic stuff. We need to make sure that the groundwork is done before we start to work towards the advanced stuff. So now I'm going to go through the beginner's guide to calisthenics or bodyweight strength training and handstands. So I'm going to run through body positions, shoulder positions, and then the strength exercises that I think you should be doing at the start. So the bent arm strength work and the straight arm strength work. So body position number one is like this plank position. So going up into protraction. So protraction is when we round the upper back. We don't want to obviously hold this position like that. So a standard plank, we want to have a strong position, but I also want you to push up through the shoulder blades. Now to get into a happy place there, externally rotate. So normally when you externally rotate, things are going to get stronger. What you don't want to do is squat like this. We want to squat like that. So screwing into the floor. Same thing with the body position on our hands. So externally rotate the hands. Protract, so push up into your shoulder blades, up into that position. Now if you find that this happens and you can't stay up like that, you can do exactly the same thing on your knees or with your hands raised up. Okay, then a hang-in position. Now with the hang-in position, we want to make sure that you have your hands shoulder width apart. So in line with your shoulders, place the hands there. See if you can get your arms straight. So a lot of people when they first hang, they're going to be like this. So they're not actually even going to be able to straighten their arms. So if that's you, go a little bit wider with the hands, relax into it. And ideally we want to be getting up to around 60 seconds in this hanging position. And you want to feel like your whole body is lengthening towards the floor. And then a top support position. Now this can be done on rings, it can be done between boxes, benches, P-bars, things like that. So what we don't want to have is this collapsed position again. We want to depress, open the chest, bring the shoulders back and down and hold there. Now if you need to, you could have toe assist on here. If you're finding that quite easy, you could go up to things like rings, but make sure that you got that good shoulder position. And again, if we can hold this for around 30 seconds when show control in that position, that's a good start. And then back to this support position again, we want to push up to that protracted, so rounded shoulder blades. If you took your top off here, you shouldn't be able to see your shoulder blades in that position. And then I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go to retraction. So that's bringing the shoulder blades together, but keeping the arms straight. Now notice that I'm not collapsing through the hips, I'm keeping the hips active and up, and then I'm going to push back up to that protracted position. So we want to make sure that our shoulder blades can glide and we can move between protraction and retraction. Again, if that's too hard, go down onto your knees or elevate the hands up. Now the same thing with the hang-in, we're going to start from that passive position again, so where we were doing the passive hang a minute ago, but this time I'm going to hold that static position, so as deep as I can towards the floor, and then I'm going to pull up to an active position. So this is as high as I can go, but keeping the arms dead straight. So I'm pulling up as high as I can, so we call that an active hold, and then I'm going to come down to passive, so down there, and then go between the two. Now with this one and the protraction push-ups that we've done on the floor, if we can get up to 10 solid reps, that's a really good place to add on the strength work too. Now that support position we can start to make a little bit more fun by going up to an L-sit. Now because this is beginner's guide, we're just going to work on taking the knees up as high as we can and not worry about starting to extend the legs yet. So just keeping the knees up nice and high, trying to keep an upright torso and definitely not depressing and collapsing. So again, if we get this up to like 30 seconds, that's a really good place to be. Then we can start on the basic strength exercises. So we have the push-up position. Now obviously that's easier with the hands elevated. Start in that protracted position, elbows in towards the side as you come down. And notice as the body stays in a straight line, chest touches the bar or the box or whatever you're pushing down to, and then back up to that start position. If that's too hard, elevate the hands. If it's easy, decrease the height until you can get to the floor. And then obviously the goal with the push-ups is to get good controlled reps, chest to the floor, keeping the body a straight line, elbows into the side. Now the partner to the push-up is the row movement. So notice they're exactly the same. So I'm rounding the shoulder blades at the bottom, so going more into that protract position. And then as I row up towards the bar or the rings, I'm going to try and open the chest. The rings I can rotate, open the chest to get the chest to touch, and then come back down again. Now if that's easy, I can start to do the same as we've done on the push-up. I can take the chest down, and then harder variations down at the bottom there, easier variations higher up. Then we need to start to look at the straight arm strength movements. Now they can be a little bit more confusing to get your head around, but think of things like planches, press handstands, front levers, movements like that. So we want to try and get that straight arm conditioning at a lower level to start with, so we can build that strong base for the harder movements. Now a great exercise to start with is the skin the cat. So I've got the rings nice and low. This can be done on the bar as well. I'm going to go into a German hang first. So this is the easiest variation. I'm going to turn this way around. I'm just going to relax the arms. Don't worry about going palms backwards yet, because that puts a lot more demand on the biceps. I'll just go to a relaxed position with the hands, hips nice and high. From that position, I'm going to hop or lift myself up into a tuck, and then I'm just going to see if I can lower with straight arms. So that's a great exercise, that eccentric, to control the straight arm movement all the way down through that path until your butt touches the floor. And then you can either go back up with bent arms or a jump and do repetitions there. Now, with the goal being to slowly get to the point where you can go in the opposite direction and do the concentric. So you can pull yourself up there. That does take a while to get. And then the other biggie for straight arm strength is the planche lean. Now I recommend that people, even when they're doing the advanced movements of planche, they're still working on the planche lean. So it's another great exercise that you can start off with the real basic position and then keep progressing on and on and on until the harder variations. So I'm going to externally rotate a bit like that push-up position we started in to start with. So there, protract. Then I'm just going to start to ease forwards. So taking the shoulders forwards of the hands, keeping the protraction. Just be careful that you don't stick the hips up in the air. Keep the hips down, but active, not collapsed. And then just hold there. So again, 20, 30 seconds is a great time to aim for in that position. And then just over time, we're going to get further and further forwards. But a millimeter makes a massive difference on the intensity. Now, when you're starting out, leg exercises are really important. We need to work on your standard squat. So making sure you can come into a squat position down there and stand back up again. Then obviously we can make that harder by going to single leg variations. And a good way to start off with that is just do some eccentrics to a step. Standing up with two legs, eccentrics on the opposite leg. You'll also be doing active mobility for the legs, so a straddle up is a great one to start with. So having the hands behind you, sitting down onto the floor, and then getting back up again. If you don't have the range or the strength to do that, you can just raise your hips up. So using a box or a step and then just slowly decreasing the height to make it harder. Now once we're comfortable in the push-up, we can step it up and go towards the dips. Now the dips are quite challenging, especially if you jump straight to the ring. So I'd recommend that you start on P-bars or boxes. Train the top position, so that's that support we've already looked at. So this support position here, we also want to practice and focus on that bottom position. So the bottom of the dip. So here it could have tippy toe assist in that position, keeping the rings or the hands and elbows pushed into your side. And then over time, learn to hold that with no toes on the floor. Then we can work on our eccentric, so top support down to the eccentric and hold. And then we can work on the full movement with some assistance, so either from a band or with toe assist. And then progression of the rows is to go to the chin up. So ideally you'd come up, chest would touch the bottom at the top, chest would touch the bottom at the top, chest would touch the bar at the top, and then back down again. Now obviously there's a big jump up from a row to that, so how do we work it in increments up to that? We could practice that top position, so with tippy toes on the floor or on a box, slowly lifting off and holding. We could work our eccentrics, so hold at that top position, slowly lower all the way down to a passive hang. Then we could go full reps with toe assist or band assist. Now with the straight arm strength, we could either just progress the skin the cat, or we could start to go into our static positions for our front lever and our planche. So this position, get comfortable upside down with the shins against the bar, and then slowly start to lower the hip, but keeping the knees to the chest, aiming for 15-20 second hold there. Now making that slightly easier by pushing the legs out to the arm and using a bit of friction there. Now it's a big jump up to the tuck planche, so what we can work on is our crow position or frog pose. So into that position with the knees on the elbows, get comfortable there. If that's too hard, tippy toes on the floor, we could work on straightening the arms as well. And then obviously lifting the arms off either in straight arms or bent arms. And then eventually we want to start to do exercises towards that tuck planche position. In there you can have a light toe assist, but you can notice by my voice that's much harder. And then eventually we can lift off to our tuck planche. And there's lots of ways of making that tuck planche easier, like using band assist. And then for the handstands, chest or handstand is going to be your friend. Just do that all the time, daily basis, whenever you're training. Step up onto a wall, don't use a post like this. So nice and strong position, not collapsing. Just make sure you can hold that for time. Once you build up the control there and the confidence, you can start to walk in closer and have more of an upright position, but just don't make sure that you're not collapsing. If you find you're constantly collapsing, we need to work our shoulder strength a little bit more with the push-ups and the dips, and our body line position and mobility with movements like this. Now, the one thing will hold you back on all of these movements is mobility. It definitely did for me. I didn't start this type of training until I was 37. I'm now 46, and I've been hitting mobility on a daily basis because I couldn't sit in a pancake position. I couldn't sit in a squat. I could barely touch my toes. So mobility, I recommend you hit that daily. Some thoracic rolling on the foam roller, quad stretch, hip flexor stretch, hamstring stretch, and a glute stretch at the minimum. So my recommendation is you do your mobility work, you do your scapular conditioning, you do something for your bent arm strength, pushing and pulling, the same for your straight arm strength, and then something for your legs. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback, stick it down in the comments, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, guys.